As you know, the next Zelda game, Tears of the Kingdom, is priced at $70, and the amount of division on that silly little Nintendo game is absurd. But before I try my hand in the fight, we have to understand the fight in the first place. We have to go back to the year of our Lord, September 4th, 2020, when the first modern game priced at $70 was released. NBA 2K21, as I can find, was the first game priced at $70. It's pretty weird to think how the first game is the same as the game I could buy 4 years earlier for $60, but I digress. And now, years later, the scheme has caught on, and now nearly every AAA title on 9th gen consoles now costs $70. But that carries me to my first argument. Only next gen games are $70, so why does Nintendo have any respect to charge that on their underpowered machine? This is a decently fair point. The Switch is 6 years old now, and it was still underpowered at launch, struggling to even run Breath of the Wild at a stable frame rate in some locations. But truly, I believe that if all you care about is graphics, then you better go watch a James Cameron movie than play Nintendo games. Because if you buy a Nintendo game, you buy it for the gameplay. And on that end, Tears of the Kingdom will surely fail to disappoint. After at least 5 years of development, Tears of the Kingdom has had time to fix every issue of Breath of the Wild and still have enough time to make an inventory's worth of hearty simmered fruit. Unless development has gone through absolute hell and back, I refuse to believe I won't love every second of this game. After 100 hours on a single save in Breath of the Wild, I could easily spend another 200. However, that unfortunately leads us to our next issue raised. It's the same Hyrule as Breath of the Wild. You're gonna spend $70 to play the same game again? This one is much harder to defend, as right now we hardly know anything about the world we're exploring in this game. We could spend 90% of the game in the skies, or we could spend 5% in the skies. There could or couldn't be an underground. We might not ever know until the game is released, but I believe a little can speak volumes. While this is purely conjecture, I think they want to show as little of the new land as possible to make the journey feel like we are truly stumbling across an undiscovered land that has never been touched for eons. Think of it this way. Although it was technically a new world for Link with his amnesia, both Link and the player has already most likely experienced Hyrule in one form or another when playing Breath of the Wild. But Tears of the Kingdom is establishing completely new land, nothing we've ever seen before. Even Termina and Majora's Mask was still very similar to Hyrule we had experienced previously. So in all, I do believe Tears of the Kingdom will have much of the same Hyrule as Breath of the Wild, but I believe they're using this game to establish new worlds to explore, whether it's just the skies we've clearly seen, or maybe with an underground they've been teasing. And I go into more depth of what I'd hope to see in Tears of the Kingdom in a video here, so if you'd like to see more, be sure to check out that video after this one. But anyways, on to our next argument, and believe me, it's tough. Now at this point, it's probably better for us to look at the entire video game industry and see why video games are heading in the $70 direction. And spoiler, I think it's mostly greed. The main argument for $70 games is inflation, and at an initial glance, that sounds plausible. Back when it released, Wind Waker was $50, but adjusted for inflation, it would now cost $80. And that's not even mentioning the fact that Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom were both far more expensive to develop than Wind Waker. But that's ignoring a very important fact about video games, and especially Nintendo, that they just weren't as popular or mainstream at the time. If you take all the sales of Wind Waker multiplied by the best case scenario of 100% revenue back to Nintendo and all copies sold at full price, Wind Waker made $382 million, with inflation. And that may sound like a lot, but if we look at Breath of the Wild with the exact same scenario, it made $1.84 billion, and still growing as it's still being sold. It's not exactly apples to apples, but I hope this illustrates why inflation shouldn't even really matter in this situation, other than to get more money from the consumers. So with all that, why does it sound like I'm happy to be paying $70 for Tears of the Kingdom? Well, in short, I'm not. I honestly believe it shouldn't be $70. And the only reason it is to give Nintendo even more money from this game that'll inevitably sell better than most Zeldas and other Nintendo games. Then why am I going to pay $70 for it? Well, it boils down to everything I said at the beginning. The game. Now, I could spend $8 to watch a crappy Marvel movie for 2.5 hours, or I could play 300 hours of a game I will remember for the rest of my life for $70. I could do the math to show exactly the dollar per minute entertainment value of each, but I don't think I need to, because the memories are priceless. Am I falling for one of Nintendo's tricks by accepting the $70 price tag? Well, yeah, probably, but I can complain about that more another time. I feel that if you really want to experience this world, then you'll just have to shell out the extra $10. And I could absolutely be proven wrong and find out in 2 months that Tears of the Kingdom really is just a small expansion to Breath of the Wild. And if you worry about that, then you should absolutely wait at least a day after release to buy it. Believe me, no matter how big it is, people will beat it before the sun rises on midnight launch. But for me, I accept the risk, and as dumb as it may sound, I trust the giant video game monolith to not scam me. And besides, when has a Zelda game ever disappointed us? Okay, well that doesn't count. That one's not that bad. Well, you're just lying to yourself if you think those games are bad. Anyways, with that, I'd love to hear your arguments for or against the $70 price tag. But try to keep it from being a full-out war zone down there, and always remember to avoid your logical fallacies taught from English. And remember to check out my hopes and wishes videos. I bring up a lot of interesting ideas that can make Tears of the Kingdom a step above Breath of the Wild. Or if that isn't your speed, then I recommend you subscribe and hit the bell to enable notifications, because I have a video upcoming where we discover which iteration of Zelda is in fact the hottest. And with that, I'm out. Oh yeah, and I did do the math. The movie is 18.75 minutes $1, and Zelda is 4 hours 16 minutes $1. So there's that.